Thank you all very much. It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that kind introduction, Mr. President. I appreciate it. I have been asked today to provide you with an overview of what I'm trying to do in the United States Senate and what my priorities are for the coming year. To begin with, I would like to discuss a few issues that you are facing and issues that are impacting our entire nation. This January, we welcomed a new beginning with the arrival of the 114th Congress. We have many new faces in the Senate. There is a sense of excitement that's in the air as we look to trying to tackle some of those major challenges that we are facing. I believe the greatest challenge we are facing and the primary duty of Congress is defending this nation. It is my honor to serve on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and I'm committed to neutralizing growing threats to our homeland and to our allies. I'm pleased to serve as chairman of the Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities. This subcommittee allows me to work with our military to monitor the many threats facing our nation and to provide the appropriate tools for our military men and women so that they can meet those challenges. A top priority of my subcommittee is dealing with cybersecurity. Cyber attacks on our government agencies and on private companies are real. They are serious, and they are growing. As a country, we must have the resources necessary to defend against these attacks. We must also, though, have the political will to protect our citizens from these actions. I know many of you appreciate all too well the challenges that we face. As professional firefighters, you are among the first to respond to any attack on our homeland. Every year, there are countless heroes who sacrifice their lives in order to protect our citizens and to keep our communities safe. Firefighters were the first responders to the World Trade Center on September 11th. Firefighters were the first to respond here in Arlington when Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. And firefighters were the first to respond to that Pennsylvania field when Flight 93 was stopped from inflicting more terror. Thank you. We live in a dangerous world, and the threats we face are complex, and they continue to evolve. Now more than ever, brave men and women like you stand ready to face these challenges and respond to whatever lies beyond that fog of our foresight. The threats that we face are not in a bubble. They are growing in this dangerous world, and they are growing beyond our borders. One of the immediate threats comes from the rise of ISIL in the Middle East and in Northern Africa. As President Obama said, our goal is to destroy ISIL. I agree, but it is a multi-layered problem. Currently, ISIL controls a number of large cities and a territory roughly the size of Great Britain. Their ranks are growing, and their actions, while occurring abroad, ultimately affect our safety here at home. Of great concern is the number of Westerners who have left home to join this terror with the goal of bringing it back here. From France and Belgium to Canada and Minneapolis, Minnesota. The danger breeding in these troubled areas is becoming far too real, and we must do what we can to prevent it from happening. I believe we need a comprehensive plan. There are many questions that must be answered if we are going to defeat ISIL. First, in regards to Syria. How do we deal with Assad? Is it still our goal to remove Assad from office? And when ISIL is finally destroyed, who is going to take over the places that they now occupy? Second, what's next for Iraq? That country is destabilized, and the Kurdish forces have gained territory in the region. Are we looking for there to continue to be a unified Iraq? And if not, what's the strategy? And finally, how do we deal with Iran's growing influence in the region? I've often said that a nuclear Iran is one of the biggest threats to our country. Iran is the threat that keeps me up at night. We live in a world of danger, terror, and evil, and this reality demands action. Providing for a strong defense abroad also requires a robust economy here at home. And as a member of the Senate Commerce Committee, I have the opportunity to work on issues that cover almost every aspect of our economy. This committee has oversight responsibility on innovation, job creation, manufacturing, retail, transportation, and technology. And on that Commerce Committee, I chair the subcommittee on surface transportation. In this role, I have the opportunity to work on a number of important issues, including transportation, which is an issue that you all deal with in various forms every day. As chairman of that subcommittee, I'm working across the aisle to ensure that the security of our transportation systems remain a top priority. As you folks know all too well, firefighters are often the first responders to accidents in all modes of transportation. I applaud the work of the International Association of Firefighters to ensure that first responders across our nation are properly trained to address and respond to these emergencies. In particular, when it comes to the transport of hazardous materials, we must ensure that operators and shippers take the precautions necessary to safely secure those materials. Furthermore, it's important that all levels of government are given flexibility to coordinate with private sector stakeholders and with local first responders when dealing with these issues. I'd also like to speak with you briefly about healthcare and its impact on you. Last week, the Supreme Court heard arguments in King v. Burwell. That's a lawsuit regarding government-funded subsidies for Obamacare. If the court decides that these subsidies are unconstitutional, it will have a dramatic effect on the law and its path forward. At the same time, there are still a number of significant issues with this law that have dramatic consequences for families all across America. One issue in particular, known as the Cadillac tax, has caused problems across the political spectrum. As many of you in this room know, starting in 2018, the so-called Cadillac tax will impose a 40% levy on the value of health insurance plans. Plans that exceed the limit of $10,200 per individual and $27,500 per family will be targeted by a 40% federal tax. This is going to force individuals and families to pay more for something that was supposed to be affordable. Even though the tax won't be implemented by 2018, we are already seeing its effects. Companies across this country have begun reducing both the value and the quality of their high-end health plans in order to avoid those penalties that are threatened by this tax. Back in 2013, the New York Times reported on this trend, noting that 17% of employers have adjusted their health care plans to account for this tax, an increase from 11% of employers who did so in 2011. I believe that as time goes on, we will see more and more employers continue this pattern and be forced to limit their plans that they make available to their employees. This Cadillac tax would do just that because it discourages purchasing insurance policies over a certain dollar amount. Though Congress may have its political disagreements, and you know there have been many, taxing employers who choose to purchase quality health care plans for their employees is the wrong approach. I remain convinced that we need health care with smart, patient-centered alternatives that will address the real needs that are facing American families. I want to finish by commending all of you for your honorable work that you have devoted your lives to. From coast to coast, in small towns and in large cities, you are there as the first call when danger comes and when people need help. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do to protect our families and our communities. God bless. Thanks.